small. He created you, he created us all. Hush, little baby, don't you fear. We're never alone when Allah's near. Hush, little baby, breathing so calm. He'll protect us all and keep us from harm. Hush, little baby, still and serene. You are a Muslim, Islam's your deen. Hush, little baby, pure and small.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is a new episode, but it is a continuation of the same subtopic that we discussed in the previous program. And it's still, we're talking about engaging all students in the lesson. And we've seen some examples and we applied them on some Islamic subjects and non-Islamic subjects. And today it will be your role to do this. But before continue doing this, I'd like to ask you a question. The issue of engaging all students, can you relate it to the other things, the other topics that we studied yesterday? We studied about 5 topics, if you still remember them. The interactivity, the what else? Distributive focus, individual versus teamwork.
Variety of teaching methods.
Okay, variety of methods of teaching, very good. Does this topic relate to any of them? Engaging all students, where does it fall with the other? How it is related to the others?
It is firstly related to variety of teaching method.
Yes, it's interactivity. The whole class is interactive. Okay, does it relate to any other thing?
Interactive.
Yes.
The first point.
Yes, what else?
Different learners, remedial learning, different learners, quick, average and slow learners.
Yes, very good, different types of learning.
Balance between teamwork and individual work.
Balance between teamwork and individual work. The first game was about teamwork, because one person can do a good job, but with the team, the whole team destroys the whole thing, because one person has a bad memory, right? Or he lies very well, okay? Some people lied to you, right? They said something that I didn't say. Right? It happens intentionally or non-intentionally, by the way. A person doesn't want to lie, but this is because of a weak memory, right? And he did that. And that's why the scholars say, Afatul ilmi ruwatuhu. Afatul ilmi, the disease of knowledge, is the people who narrate it. This is it. Afatul ilmi ruwatuhu. Everything has a disease. The disease of knowledge is that particular Islamic knowledge is the people who narrate that. So because they modify and make some changes, right, perhaps unintentionally, but this is the disease of the ilm. And that's why you find the Muslim scholars were so accurate in transmitting the words, the exact words. They would never change a word. And that's why, for example, Sheikh al-Albani, rahimahullah, came and he collected all the incorrect hadith because of very small change here, or because he knew, he studied the biography of this person, and he found that this person is weak, has weak memory. That's why if he has weak memory, we're not going to take from him. So these are some benefits, again, you can add to the children, to the students, when they do the game. What else it relates to? Say that it relates to differentiation, it relates to individual or independent and group work, it relates to interactivity. Does it relate to a distributive focus? Some of them are knowledge, some of them may be related to concept. Yes. At the end, really, and at the end of every episode, I will talk about these things. I want to show you how related all these issues together. Because this is the way our human brain works. Everything is related. There's no isolation. This is this corner for that thing or this corner for that thing. No. And we'll talk about this more when we talk about cross-curricular links, inshallah. I found a book. I'll give it to you, and I hope you write the name here and the name of the author on the screen, and you pass it so everybody would have an opportunity to see this book. It's a book for language games for language. However, there are some games that you can take and apply them on math or other things. There are many books similar to this in the market. And again, I'm doing this to show you that the teacher should be a resourceful person. He's not the one who knows knowledge in his area only, but he should be aware of what's happening, and he should share the knowledge he has with the students. This is one role of the teacher. He's not just isolated and sinking in the subject matter or in the textbook. No, he wants to open. So I ask you to write this and the name of the author, and then immediately to pass it. I hope it stays with you only 1 minute until all of you share it with each other. Jazakumullahu khairan. Now, and while we are doing this, see now, two things are going on. We are continuing our lesson, and at the same time, something else is going on. There's something important, because in our life, we don't do one thing at a time, right? You are cooking in the kitchen and you are talking on the phone. That's why the food burns, right? Okay, so we need to learn how to do some tasks at the same time. Some tasks at the same time. Okay, now I want you to think of some application, how to apply what you learned today, engaging students in a subject matter like we talked about Quran, we talked about Hadith. Let's talk about Aqidah. Aqidah. What would you do to engage the students if you are teaching a lesson about Aqidah? Think of an example, think of a game. Yes, tell me. Are you ready? You're teaching a lesson in Aqidah. How would you engage, right, the students, the maximum number of students in a lesson of Aqidah? I begin with something, okay? I just thought it. But again, that you need to have list of activities. You can give every group of students one chapter of the Quran and ask them to highlight issues that are related to Aqidah, right? Another group, you ask them to highlight the names and attributes of Allah on this page or in this surah, right? You can apply to all students, give each student one chapter. Or you can gather students to work collectively, whatever you like. I think collectively would be correct, because they would have a chance to correct each other. Okay, and here is where students can learn from each other. Good. And they can explain the concepts to each other, and they save you a lot of time. Okay, this is my example. If you have another example, okay, what else? Yes?
I come into the class and I make the announcement that today's topic is Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat. Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat. And I ask the students to write down the attributes of Allah, whatever they know of, the all-powerful, and they start writing it down. I give them 5 minutes. And then I start taking the chapter, and I ask them to circle those qualities that which I have taught in the lesson which you had already known.
Okay, they are trying to list all the names and attributes of Allah as much as possible.
Yes.
And to relate the things that you mentioned to what they have written, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, good. What else? We need creativity here. Yes, I know that it doesn't come in a second. You need to think of it. But again, if you do this with the students themselves, ask them, what are the games that we can do, or how can we do this in the class? They will give you some ideas. And you need to have, as I said, your diary has a list of examples that you can use, right? Because you use one here, and number 1 and number 25 today. Tomorrow you may need to use 27 and 805. You see what I'm saying? You need to have a list, because we cannot remember all this. Jazakumullahu khairan. Yes, you can move this to the left. Okay, any comment on what's going on here in the class? Any comment? We've not learned this before, or we think that this is a very old technique, or when we use this technique, we lose a lot of time in the class, or we find that the students become more understanding of the lesson. Do you have any comments on what's going on? You can notice that I'm intentionally going slow. I want you to live the things that we are saying, because if they are just a piece of information, if you don't live them, if you don't have a skill in them, you will forget them very quickly. So that's why I'm going, on the slow side here. We studied something yesterday saying that the children learn by playing more than by textbooks. You remember Ali ibn Abi Talib saying that, yes, play with your child 7 years, right? And then discipline him for 7 years, and then accompany him for 7 years, and then leave him alone for 7 years. So that means in the first 7 years, the child needs to have a lot of games. And by the way, these games that we mentioned does not apply only to the young ones. It applies also to the old ones. I will take a break right now. Don't go away. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Hush, little baby.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back after the break. Now we are going to continue our discussion about the same topic, which was engaging all students as much as possible. Okay, I got a question here from you.
Yes, Sheikh, repeat the statement of Hazrat Ali
To
that which you
say
had
the
said.
statement of Hazrat Ali. In fact, would you please say it, what Ali said, radiallahu anhu.
It was a quotation of Hazrat Ali
Yes,
regarding upbringing of a child.
okay.
He said, till the child is 7 years old, play with him.
Play with children when they are 7 years,
yes.
until 7 years.
And then for the next 7 years,
Okay.
discipline him.
Discipline them,
Teach him
discipline your
discipline.
child, yes.
And the next 7 years, keep him with you.
Accompany him.
Accompany
Deal with him as your friend.
as your friend.
He's no longer a child. He understands. So you see the different ways of dealing with people according to their ages. Yeah. Yes.
And
And
then
after that,
Set him free. Inshallah, he won't go on the
let
wrong
him
way.
free. Let him by his own. He will behave very well. Don't worry about him. He's no longer a child. There's many meanings in that. And I think in the previous class, not this previous one, a few days ago, we discussed that a lot of us don't give the children opportunity to play, enough opportunity. Playing is very important. And we said based on this, in Finland, I said in Finland, yes, the best country in education, according to last year's statistic, says that it's Finland. And they found that students enroll in school at the age of 7. Exactly as Ali ibn Abi Talib said. I don't know whether they studied the history of Ali ibn Abi Talib or not. But you can see the insight of the companion. Without that education, without being graduate of Harvard University, of Yale University, they got this information because of the insight in heart. See the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَيُعَلِّمْكُمُ اللَّهِ, or the ayah, the verse in the Quran. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَيُعَلِّمْكُمُ اللَّهِ. Yes, be pious, be mindful of Allah, and Allah will teach you. How would Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu get this information without having taqwa? See, so the taqwa gives the person insight. So again, this tells us something about what's going on in the world nowadays. One of the lies that went very well in the world is that send your child as early as possible to kindergarten. And we found that Finland is not doing this and is getting good results. So it's not true. I think sending children to kindergarten came as a reaction when women started working. When this happened, they were forced to do this after the Second World War. You see what happened? Everything was reaction to another thing. And in reality, the children, as we said that, the younger children, if they don't have opportunity to play, they are no longer children. They lose the opportunity to develop their intelligence. And I hope you can read some books about intelligence. How do we develop our intelligence? If the moment children begin to think like adults, they are no longer children. They are deprived of being children. They are deprived of developing their intelligence at this time. If a child comes here and does as you do, sits on a chair here, immediately we understand he's not a good child, by the way. If a 5-year-old or 4-year-old behaves like you, he's not a child. But if he jumps here, if he jumps there, if he goes to the computer and see what's happening here and what's happening there, he's a child. He's living his age. And when we take children to kindergarten, we try to make them behave like adults. This is called premature experience. Experience not on the right time. Yeah, and you can see from the statement of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. Please speak up.
Sheikh, I have a comment on this. A little part of the statement I may not agree, but excuse me for that, because I have been reading about Abdullah ibn Abbas. At a very
Radiallahu
young
anhu.
age,
Yes.
he was appointed as one of the members of Shura
Yeah.
in the court of Umar bin al-Khattab.
Yes.
He chose to study.
Of course, again, we are talking about individual differences. This may be a special case for this person or that person, but this is not the norm. You have to understand this. Children need to have their opportunities to play. And that's why the school of Montessori, right, came as a reaction for this. She designed her schools based on games and playing. It's children, when they join, all what they do is just move from one game into another, from one play into another. The whole class is structured like this. Again, what we don't like about this school is that it is a structured class. We want it to be unstructured. Okay. And if you read the history, by the way, of most of the inventors or the famous personals in the world, when they were children, they were doing something different from the kindergarten student. I hope when you read a biography of one person, focus on this area of his life or her life. Okay, let's go back to our topic today. We were still discussing. Any comment from here? Should I say that this is the active section and this is the inactive section, or not yet? Too early to decide. Okay, too early to decide. Okay, let's go back and say, okay, what will you do when you go to your class next week based on our discussion in these 2 episodes? Tell me, what are you going to do? Yes.
I will try to come out with more exercise to avoid distraction in the class.
To help students to focus.
To focus.
Very good.
Be attentive.
If they are close to adults, if they are young, you will engage them in plays. I will focus on playing more, right? Try to put the lesson in play.
Inshallah, I'll try my level best to make learning fun.
Okay, that's exactly what we're saying. Yeah, it's not necessarily now. Give an opportunity to others, and then we'll come back to you. Sisters, speak up. Yes, please.
Since I'm a teacher for language, I would like to take the idea of reading and listening, where each student gets a chance to be a good reader as well as a listener, and then reverse the role. So he's developing 2 skills at the same time.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's good. Also, this reminds me of something. A lot of us focus on reading in class. There's something else. There's something reading for pleasure. We have to develop our students to do this. Reading for pleasure. Whether reading for pleasure is in science or in Islamic studies or in Arabic, we should teach them how to read for pleasure. They should enjoy reading. By the way, if we don't do this, and this is something I think I found very well in the West, very good in the West. You get into an airplane or a train and you find almost 80% of the people are reading. And you find the non-Westerns, right, the majority of them are not reading. And they are focusing even on computers or something else. We have to develop the issue of reading. And when we talk about reading here, it's not superficial reading. Reading and you read something to enjoy it or to criticize it. Something when you pass by it, oh, I think there's a mistake here, because the guy in the previous 200 pages said something different. So it means, in other words, focusing. And that's what is really meant by reading, is not just wasting time to reach the end of the story. As the Prophet ﷺ said, لا يكن هم أحدكم آخر السورة. Don't make your main concern is to reach the end of the chapter. This is something that reading the Quran is different from reading any other thing. It's not the more you read, the better. No, it's the more you understand, the better. So it depends on the nature of the. So reading for pleasure. Reading for what else? What's the purpose for reading? Another reading for,
Vocabulary building.
Reading for increasing the vocabulary. You read, while you are reading anything, highlight some words, some expressions that you will, inshallah, hopefully you will use them in your writing or your speaking. Good. Reading for what else?
Reading for improving your accent and your
Yeah,
pronunciation.
reading loudly in order to improve your accent. Yeah, so there are many reasons for reading, okay? And again, this applies to writing. Say that writing for pleasure, or creative writing. And we don't have an opportunity to talk about this, but most of the exercises that you see in the books and the teachers do are one or two types of writing. Make a summary of the lesson that you have studied. Yes, but not critique what you have read or critique what your friend had written. Take this text and try to critique it. Tell me your opinion. If you are the same person, how would you write it differently? Okay? So this is creative writing. Writing for the purpose of critiquing. We need to teach people to critique others, because by critiquing others, by criticizing others, by evaluating others, you would be a better one. You would try to avoid what others have fallen in. Okay, what else you're going to change in your classes? I'm going to share what I have learned today with the teachers of languages, with the teachers of Arabic, because some of these games and other games that will help them. Sharing information is something very vital. We don't do it. I'm a teacher. I want to be a good teacher all the time, so I'm not going to help others. In fact, you forget that the more you share the knowledge with others, the more rewards you get. And that's why scholars are the more rewarded people, because they share their knowledge. Yes, because you may take the knowledge to another person in another class who would be more skillful than you and who can use it better than you. You are going to get the reward anyway. He's doing the hard work and you are going to get the reward. The easiest way to get rewards is to share knowledge. Right? Good. And that's why we are blessed to be teachers, alhamdulillah. Good. Any other comment here? Jazakallahu khairan. Well, I'll explain this to you after this episode. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Little baby, pure and small, he created you, he created us all. Hush, little baby, don't you fear, we're never alone when Allah's so near. Hush, little baby, breathing so calm, he'll protect us all and keep us from harm. Hush, little baby, still and serene, you are a Muslim, Islam's your deen. Hush, little baby, pure and small,